Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to be going into an in-depth analysis of what went wrong in 2022.
Yep.
Welcome back to The Dirt Life. My name is James. This is Liam here. We own Yard Dawgs Lawn Care in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We do about 2 million in sales a year, and it wasn't like this. So far, 2023 has been the best season we've ever had, but that was because we learned some crazy things in 2022, which was actually the worst season we ever had. We had the one video that just came out, how we went from debt to profit in a year. And today we are going to be talking about what actually went on.
Yeah, the detail, the full unfiltered detail of step by step, breaking everything down, because this year's been really good, but it wouldn't be this good if we didn't learn from like the problems that we had like last year and we didn't make the same mistakes. So in a way, you really got to struggle to really learn, and you got to go through a lot of hard times to be able to grow and learn. And that's what really happened last year. And like, it really sharpen our minds to figure out, okay, let's not make the same mistake.
2022, trust me, there were days I wanted to quit. And there's a lot of things that I just wanted to throw in the towel and say, you know what, I'll see you guys next March, put my hoodie and leave sort of thing too. But we didn't give up, and we have some fruits to share about that. But let's get into the nitty gritty here. So Liam, if we want to go, how did it all start? Like, why, if you had to break it down, did 2022 end up so sour?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many things that like went wrong. It was like almost like a perfect storm of like 2021 was actually relatively decent, and we were growing a lot relatively to the years previous, like almost 100% growth. So we thought, okay, we can go from like that 900 grand to like this 2.1.
2022. So 2021, we did snow and lawn, and it was a good year.
It was a good year. Yeah. And like, that's when we really started to really dial stuff in for like the traction. We got the EOS, where like, we would get all these overhead people and all these managers, which is good. But as long as you can actually have like the revenue to be able to support that, which we did not. We thought we would, but we actually did not. So I think that's where we're like the initial kind of crossroads where we went the wrong direction. That was we were definitely a year or two too early with that one.
Yeah, and I think we got a little bit cocky in the way that we were setting our goals, because like what happened is like we went from, I think our first year we ever really niche on fertilizer, weed control. We end up getting like about 140 clients, something like that. Like not a ton, but then the second year we really umped up, and we actually ended up at 1,200 clients.
1,200, yeah, exactly.
And then the next year, about 3,000 clients. So we thought we were untouchable.
Yeah.
So we made the ambitious goal of 2.145 million. If I ever see that number again, I'm going to shoot someone, because that number it was like people have lucky numbers. That's my unlucky number, 2.145. So like that was the goal that we were going for the 2022 season. And all in all, we ended off doing 1.2.
1.2. Yeah.
It's like not even close, but setting the unrealistic goal was so dangerous, because everything, all the money we spent to prepare for that year was based on assuming a revenue
of 2.145.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's basically, okay, we're going to project to do this, right? But then we actually do this, like literally half. But then in the off season, you have to prepare for this. You have to buy the trucks to be able to support this. You have to buy the overhead staff to support this. Got to buy all the computers and all that stuff to support this. But then the revenue is only here, like literally half, right? And like that was where this first steamroll happened, where everything basically was like, it's going to be derailed, because we had so much overhead staff, we had so much computers, so much trucks, so much tanks. We weren't even using half the stuff that we had. We had all this inventory that we had to prepay for.
It was embarrassing. Like we looked like a car dealership.
Yeah.
We had trucks on the lot that weren't being used for lawn care. So like you came in, we had 14 trucks and we were using 7 of them. We had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9 computer stations. And after we made the changes, we ended up only using like 4 or 5 of them. Exactly. We had all this stuff. I remember when you buy a truck, it's not just a truck you're buying an iPad for that truck, a mount, you're buying the toolkit, you're buying the sprayer tank, fertilizer caddies, fertilizer spreaders, and fertilizer, assuming the client's there. So we were still an empty warehouse, as a ghost town around here.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's basically the first mistake, right? So setting a way too ambitious goal. It's good to be ambitious, but if you're too ambitious, especially with like the business of like, I'm just going to grow 400%, and you don't have the capital to support that, and you're not running like a debt company, right? Like you're just trying to finance it all yourself. It's really tough to make it work. Like it'd be fun if you're Uber and you really have these projections of like, you got to scale extremely fast, completely fine. But when you're just like a lawn care business, you got to be a lot more conservative.
Exactly.
Unless you have a lot of capital behind you and you really want to push and just go into debt every year. And then eventually after like 5-10 years, be profitable, and then you're going to get out. Like that's fine to do if you actually can prepare for that and actually have the capital to do that. But usually companies like us, at least we did not.
Exactly. Many companies expect to not have profit in a few years, but it's all like planned.
Yeah.
We were I don't even know what we were planning. We had the goal, but we didn't have the proof to back up that goal. And I'm not too sure if you can see in our camera, but 2022 was the year of gray hairs for me. There was some point in the season, like I actually looked like I was 5 years older. I think most of them are gone. I have a couple here and there, but that was challenging there. So I think the way things started, let's go back to the beginning. So it's wintertime. First year, we're not doing snow removal, and we decided to do our prepay season. And the plan for the prepay season wasn't one in which we really tried to respect the fact that it is wintertime, and one, people just don't really care, and two, there is a limit on how much you should be talking to people,
to your customers,
because like you want to be informative, you want to encourage them to have a nice lawn, but there comes a point where it's salesy and it's just annoying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like for sure. Even like just like think about it. Sometimes I'm just like driving, I get a random call, and it's just like, like Shaw or Telus or whoever it is. I'm just like, shut up. Like, I just don't care. Or it's like to some company that I subscribed to like a long time ago. They're calling me again. I'm just like, just not interested,
Exactly.
Like, it's just annoying. I think one thing too is that you really got to like plan that supply and demand curve. So like the demand for like lawn care is probably something like this, it's basically just a curve, right? And right here is like December.
Just the bell curve, and it goes up as it gets warmer. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So when you're calling and it's February or it's January and the snow on the ground, no one wants to hear from you. So you might as well try to call them when it's around like right here, where the demand is at least higher, right? So we were calling our people in January, February, March, when it was like
18th time.
Yeah, for like the 20th time, right? So let's try to at least time it when the demand is at the all-time high. Number one, but number two, with the renewals, we were trying to activate and resell them, renew them, and whatever. Everyone now just automatically renews the next year, and it's way better. So if you're not already doing the automatic renewals, you are definitely missing out. If you're doing lawn mowing, fertilizer, weed control, pest control, even window washing, gutter clean, you might be able to sort of get by with like a continuous service. But everything by default continues into next year. They have to let us know if they want to cancel.
Guys, it's very easy to put someone to a continuous service. One, you want to make sure that all of your marketing is stating that for your convenience, this is a continuous service that renews year to year. So the way that we say it on the phone now, every single sales call at the very end, you say, oh, and by the way, Francine, for your convenience, these services, they continue year over year unless you let us know. You put that phrase in there. The first time I said it, I was shaking. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to call the cops on me. They're going to get so mad. And what did he say? Okay, sounds good. And 99% and 99, literally 0.9% of people that I talk to, they say, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sounds good. Oh, and some people praise me like, oh, thank God.
I don't have to call you guys again. I don't have to worry.
I
can just go and focus on more important things.
You.
Do you really believe that customers truly care about $200 a year? Definitely not. And if they do, that's not your ideal customer.
Exactly.
They are busy with their kids. They have more important things. They're busy with work. They're focused on their own business. They're focused on their own lives.
First thing there.
That's the first big improvement. I guess we're kind of going into 2023 here, but like that's a big improvement that really helped us with 2023 so far. Anyway,
then let's jump into the fact that because we're implementing Traction talks about having a certain type of overhead staff for things, and we were so top heavy. Way too many managers. Why don't you start off talking about how we had just too much overhead?
Yeah, for sure.
What is overhead exactly?
So if anyone knows what Traction is, it's a book from Gino Wickman. It's a really good book. So even if you are under the $2 million like threshold, I do recommend you do like to read it, because there are some great steps that you even take if you're not over that $2 million. But we weren't at the time, right? So we were like, okay, we're gonna follow this book. We're gonna hopefully get to the $2 million. This process right here will help us out. So anyway, what they talk about in Traction is that you need at least two guys on the overhead. So a visionary and an integrator. You were the integrator. I was a visionary. And then below the integrator, there is a marketing manager. There's a sales manager. There's an operations manager. And there's a financial manager. So if those people, right? So 5 overhead people, and then plus additional overhead people for office staff. We had Arden, we had Mackenzie, we had Claire, we had Jordan. So we had 5, and Amy. So we had 5 people as kind of like the top tier executive level, which is not executive because we're only $1 million company. There should be like 1% overhead.
Yeah, exactly.
But we had 5 people plus additional 5 people in the office for sales, customer service, marketing, and whatever else, right? So 10 people
in the office
on the field to be able to provide for $1.2 million of revenue.
Yeah, we also technically had
that sounds awful. That is awful, right?
There's also the branch manager of Edmonton and Red Deer, which you could consider to be overhead.
Almost 12, too. Right? So you basically, the people that are going out in the field need to be able to provide, the revenue and be able to pay for like their own work, to be able to provide for like the shop and all that stuff, but also be able to provide for the overhead people in the office as well.
Yeah.
When there's 10 to 12 people, there's no chance
There's no chance.
No chance.
And it's all about your ratios. You need to have a field to office ratio, and you got to determine the sweet spot. Now, over time, it gets better. You need to start off with things being a little bit fat, because you have a point where there's probably, if you're just starting up, there will be a time where it's literally one truck in the field and one person doing the office stuff, and that's fine. But you do want to really grow the field staff, because it's the lawn care technicians that are actually making the money at the company.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're the ones going out doing production, and that revenue starts to be counted on the profit and loss statement. So we had the overheads, like our ratios were messed up. We had more people in the office than in the field. There was a time when it was literally like that 10 to 12 people in the office and only 7 trucks going out.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize too, like we weren't planning on having 12 to like 7, so 12 people on the overhead and 7 people on the technicians. Like our plan was, like, as I said before, like this is where it really fell apart. So we were going for the 2.1.
Yeah.
So we thought there'd be 15 to 16 people on the field, and then about 10 people on the overhead, which is still not a good ratio at all. But that was our intent. And then luckily, unfortunately, we didn't hit the revenue, and that's where it really went bad, right? So it's like a perfect storm of like the over prediction of the revenue combined with like not being as lean as we possibly could. So
sounds like we were pretty unfocused, and we sure were, because we weren't just trying to do Calgary. We were trying to do 2 other cities. So anyways, we decided to open a branch in all 3 of them, and we didn't open just like a garage satellite branch. We rented and signed the lease on an office. Like we're talking warehouse space and office space in Edmonton and Red Deer, truck for each of those, equipment for each of those, computers for each of those, furniture for each of those. And it was nuts, because we were all of a sudden our rent went from 6K
the rent here
to 10K a month.
6K.
About 6K here.
Yeah, 6K, and then Edmonton was what? 4K?
Edmonton was 3.7 or something like that, even up to 4K, and Red Deer was about 1,800.
So all in all, almost like 12,000
with utilities. Yeah, it is absolutely nuts. So
I think our mentality going into that, which I believe to be not the right mentality anymore, but I know what we were getting at, is if you want to be $1 million company, you got to act like $1 million company from day one. So we're like, okay, if we want to get to like this kind of threshold, we got to be like that since day one. But you also have to be realistic too, and be like, okay, we're not made of money. We're just growing the business. We're starting from 0 customers here. We got to be very realistic. We got to be as lean as possible to cut off on the overhead.
Yeah.
But that was the mentality going into it.
We stopped being humble, because like, how did we start in Calgary? Parents' garage.
Yeah.
And with a 1995 Toyota Previa.
Exactly.
And like used equipment. You know, you start lean, you bootstrap, and you work your way up.
Exactly.
And then from there, you start to buy things for, not because they're flashy, but because they're efficient and reliable.
Exactly.
And everything there too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So our focus was scattered there too. So it's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. It's 2 days after my birthday. And we decide, you know what, like the operations manager we had there, Sean, like things weren't going well. He was a new industry for him. I wasn't the best manager to him. He had some issues though. We had a really hard time working together, and he was clearly not the right guy. He was one of those people, and this isn't a video to bash on people, but it was just one of those situations where someone could not own up to a mistake and say, I need to learn here. He thought he knew everything. So we parted our own ways April 1st, and we hired his service managers. We didn't talk about those either. So we hired the service manager, Matt, to step into his place. We threw Matt a curveball, put him into a position that he didn't have the experience or the skills ready. He wasn't really ready for the position, but we put him in there. And again, everyone was sort of doing it was like sort of like the okay people in the somewhat right seat. It wasn't truly.
And this is another bit, like, we're not bashing on like any like this is complete and utter like our fault. We're not saying that like, oh, like this failed because of like other people at all. Like this is my fault, his fault. Like this, we take complete and utter. Like,
everyone that we mentioned in this video and stuff, we love you. We would love to have coffee, beers with any of you guys. And this is not on you. This was on us. 100%. I want to make that very, very clear here. We were spending money we didn't have, but we didn't know what our financials were.
Exactly.
So let's go into that.
We weren't really striving for a budget and then seeing what we were actually doing compared to the budget. And that was like our first like really big mistake.
Let's get a little bit into that, because I know there's a lot of people in a similar shoe where like accounting is definitely one of the weakest sides. They just let their accountant kind of tell them what's going on. Talk to us a little bit more, Liam, about what are the 3 statements people need to know in their lawn care business?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'd say the number one thing is that you need to know your balance sheet. So balance sheet is just assets equals liabilities plus equity. So whatever basically, what do you own, and then who owns it rather. So right here, if we were to look at this right here, okay, we have an asset right here, this microphone. Yard Dawgs owns that, but those trucks right there, you know, they're trucks, but we don't own it. The bank owns that because we're financing those trucks. So it's basically what you own, and then the question of who owns it. Is it us, or is it the bank, like a third party? right? And you don't want too many liabilities. You want a lot more equity.
Yeah.
Right. So balance sheet's number one. Very simple, but there's a lot that goes into the balance sheet. Secondary is a P&L. Income statement, right? And just because you're profitable doesn't mean that you're going to actually collect that cash. It can go into one of two categories. It can either go to the cash account or it can go into accounts receivable. So you can be very profitable and still go bankrupt.
Yes.
If you don't collect on the money and you just don't have credit cards on file and you're just trying to like collect everything, you could genuinely go bankrupt. You could have like a 40% net profit after taxes and you could still like go under.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the second one. So then the third one is kind of like bridges the gap. Cash flow is basically, you know, there's a lot of different ways, but it's basically the statement of cash flows, cash in, cash out. There's indirect ways, direct ways. I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but this statement of cash flow is probably one of the most important ones. So it looks at your net profit, but then you also add in your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, and a few like other things as well.
Because you might look great on paper.
Yeah.
Like you might look, oh, revenue is amazing, but
and profits are amazing too.
Exactly, but you haven't collected money in 90 days.
Exactly, right? So, and the other thing too is that capital expenses, they don't hit the P&L, but they hit your cash, right? So when we were going to go, we bought this stupid $130,000 CNC machine to sculpt the dogs because we were trying to like save money. But that $130,000, that's an asset on the balance sheet, but that's 130 grand of lost cash right there.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so like that would be a dumb mistake to do. Right. So cash does not equal profits.
If you're a seasonal business, if there's one tip I have for you when it comes to money, besides knowing what knowing what those statements are that we're talking about, is like you need to keep overhead down. There are some things that you are going to inevitably have to pay for 12 months out of the year. But if you're a business like ours that actually only makes money 6 months out of the year, be very careful about what you sign and what kind of subscriptions you adhere to, because those things you're going to, like, for example, rent. Rent's a tricky one because you need an office. You need to be efficient. You need to have a place for your office staff and your trucks go out there. And you want people to feel like they're actually at a legit place.
For sure.
But you're still paying for that in February. You're still paying for that in January, even though you're only working from May 1st till the end of September. So just be very careful what kind of overhead you bring into your company. Now, Liam, all those things you just mentioned there, where can people even start?
Read a book. The book. Or take some university courses, but the book I recommend, I believe it's called The Lemonade Stand Accounting. Read that book. A lot of great online resources too to take like a full university course.
The link for Lemonade Stand will throw into the description of this video.
Read that book. That's the best $20 you can start.
Absolutely, absolutely.
For sure.
Okay, guys. So, and then what really happened there is that come June, we knew major changes need to happen. The thing with lawn care is that there is a peak season, and that peak season typically is in May. And we were banking really on May of what if May went extremely well, we could maybe get out of this hole somewhat. But May ended up just being, it was just one of those okay months. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So June, we had to make some very tough decisions. And unfortunately, like we mentioned, we had all these overhead people. We had to start doing layoffs. And if you're a business owner, you know that probably the worst part of business is when you need to fire someone. It's something.
And not fire because they did a bad job. Fire because you financially can't afford them. Like, that was the worst, like one of the worst days of my life, I'd say. Like, that was awful. And like shout out to like a lot of people, they took it super well. Like Arden, if you're watching this or whatever, Arden was like unbelievable. Arden, he's like an 18-year-old kid. He was like, I understand, guys, like what you guys are doing.
And he was even saying, hey, if it's between me and her, fire me first.
Yeah, sacrifice me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. Like he was
shout out Artie.
And there's a lot of guys too that just like took it and they were very professional about it. But 2022 was absolutely rough. Like that was a tough year. And it's weird because obviously that was our highest revenue year too. It's like, oh yeah, once you get to the $1 million, like life will get easier. I genuinely believe that 700 to like that 1.3 million is like the toughest part for an entrepreneur.
It is.
Especially a home service business, because you're big enough where you need overhead and you need people in the office, but you're not like big enough where like you have the capital to be able to support that.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to like, it's a very tough like bottleneck.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
If you're doing 300 grand a year and it's just you, you can make a fine living and you can stay on top of everything. Essentially.
For sure.
The second though you want to get to building a team at once, if you want to get to 2 million, you got to go through that 700K to 1.3.
Exactly.
And that means you're hiring people to do things that you don't totally know how to do sometimes. You're putting a lot of trust in people. You're buying the equipment and you're taking a chance. You're starting to roll the dice. And sometimes those risks don't pay off. But again, like I mentioned at the start of the video, as long as you don't give up and you learn from every single mistake, you can invest those mistakes in the future. So
to like move forward and grow. So that's why I'm very pro not being comfortable. and keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing.
Exactly.
As bad as last year was, it was the absolute best thing that could happen to us.
Isn't that funny? Sometimes whenever something seems so bad in the moment, you look back at it a couple years later, you're like, you know what? I'm glad that happened, because then I did this and I did that and then that happened, blah, blah, blah. And then therefore now I am here because kind of that thing happened.
Exactly. It's just like a diamond. It's under pressure all the time, right?
Exactly. You have to be able to push yourself in a way that it's not going to kill you. So like when we had our super ambitious goals and stuff, we were making these uneducated risks. We were taking those risks there. And the problem with that, if we were 1 or 2 decisions away from going bankrupt.
Oh yeah,
we seriously were. It got very close there, and it could have went completely sour.
Yeah,
thankfully, by the grace of God, like someone's watching out for us. Seriously, where like we barely got through, and we were able to take all those pains and actually invest in the future because we weren't dead yet. So, guys, 2023. The reason why we're starting to pump a bit more into this YouTube channel and we're starting to grow is because we learned so much between 2022 and 2023, and we want to document. Okay, now here we're about to hit $2 million here. How are we want to at least get this thing to about 10 million a year. How are we going to do that? At least. Actually,
minimum.
There's bigger plans than that for sure. But like,
that's low. I want
to document this whole journey along the way. So please stay tuned. If there's parts of these videos that you guys want us to go more in depth in, please drop it in the comment section below, because we want to make sure that we are delivering for you things that you would find valuable. And let us know, are you a first-time lawn care business owner? Are you thinking about starting your own business? How are you a veteran at this point? We want to learn from you guys. So please engage with us in the comment section. If you haven't already, drop us a like and give us a subscribe so we get these videos right to you. Any closing comments that you've got for the audience today, Liam?
Just think obviously we don't know everything obviously right now, right? So we're just documenting the process. Like, that's the whole purpose of this right here. Is we're gonna probably go through like some more up and downs, some more like struggles and whatever. And the whole point of this right here is like to document the good, document the bad, and just show what we learned like along the way. That's the entire point of this.
And we've learned a lot of things along the way, so we're gonna keep pumping that out, guys. Thank you so much for watching this long video. No idea how long this one is, but thank you for staying with us to the end. If you're still here right now, we really appreciate your time and attention. And let us know what's like in the comment section below. Let us know if there's any points in this video you really want us to highlight on, or in future videos. Give us ideas, and we'll keep catering to those towards you guys. Once again, my name is James.
My name is Liam. We'll see you guys next time. Dirt Life, baby.
Dirt Life. Let's go.
Let's go.